So you're going to get your box. It should have your name and badge number on it. It's going to have your assigned signal sidearm in it. There's going to be a bunch of stuff in this box. Most of it you will not need, but we're going to talk about all the different components. So right away you're going to see that there's a packet of like instructions, material, then the actual signal sidearm device itself. Then there's a bunch of tools and other pieces. You're going to need this screwdriver that's included. You're going to see a kit here that has some other different pieces in it that has a 3M like glue or tape in there. This is for use if you do not have a holster that is compatible with one of the mounts. And so most of us are going to have the 7360 holster, and so you're not going to need this component at all. And you're going to see a bag full of different hardware. Inside of this bag is several types of hardware sets. Each of these hardware sets is compatible with a specific mounting plate. So you're going to need to see which one you're going to need depending on the mounting plate that you have. So there's just some of them there. You're also going to see a package full of mounting plates, and these mounting plates are also labeled with letters like the hardware kit. They're labeled with letters like the hardware kit, and you'll need to determine based on your holster which mounting plate you're going to be using. Okay, there's right and left versions of every single one here, so some of them say L on there and some of them say R. Make sure that you're using the right one for which draw your holster is. And the last thing is a set of screws. You're going to need these to mount the signal device on the brackets. And that's what you'll find in the box. Okay, so this is a issued Safariland 7360 holster. If you don't have one of these, you have a different type of holster. A Safariland holster has got some type of markings on the inside of it. Sometimes these are hard to see, but it'll tell you what model it is. And then there'll be a reference sheet that we can look at to determine which bracket you need based on that holster. So based on the 7360 holster, I know that I need a 0933R bracket. Okay, so this is the right hand holster version for the 7360. What we're going to be doing first is we're going to be attaching the signal device to this bracket before we install it on the holster. So in order to do that, we need the hardware kit that's associated with the 0933 bracket. So we've got our 0933R bracket, and that's hardware kit B that works with that. And the hardware kits, depending on the holster, have got a bunch of different tools in them and different screws. So what we'll do is we'll take out our hardware kit B, and then we'll see that inside of here there's an Allen key and then several screws. Because we're placing this bracket in between the belt attachment and the holster itself, it's going to be thicker than the standard holster. So that's why there's longer screws in here than come with your holster. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the signal device out of here and we're going to actually attach it onto the bracket. What I would suggest is that you figure out how that bracket is going to be fitting on your holster first, so you know which direction things go and how best to approach attaching the signal device to the bracket. In this case, if you look at the signal device, the screws that are in this bag here are going to go through the front and then into the bracket. And you'll see on the bracket there's a couple of different sides to it, but the raised side is the side that you're going to be attaching the signal device to, because it indexes on the back side of the signal device. So I know that this is going to be the top and this is going to be the bottom. So I'm going to slide the signal device on here, and it just kind of sits on those two parts that stick out. And I want the triangle to be pointed up on the device. So now I'm going to take my two screws here that I need and my screwdriver and put the signal device onto the bracket. And now that I've got the signal device attached to my bracket, now we can mount this whole thing onto the holster in between the belt attachment and the holster itself. So I'm not going to need this screwdriver anymore. We'll just set that aside. Now we're going to grab our hardware kit. Inside the hardware kit is, like I said, the screws, but also the Allen key that you're going to need to take the holster belt attachment off of the holster so that you can install the bracket in between it. Okay, so now I've taken the belt attachment off, and I'm going to install the bracket onto the holster and then reattach the belt attachment with the new screws. So this one, again, it's going to index on these screws that are already on here. And then I'm going to take the screws from the hardware kit, going to replace the belt attachment with the new screws. Okay, now it's important when you get to this point, before you tighten everything down completely, that you make sure that you're pressing the bracket and the signal device against the holster. You want there to be no gaps in between there. This is a very low power device, and it needs to be very close to the metal inside the holster when you've got your firearm in there in order to detect whether or not it's still actually there. So I'm going to start slowly tightening these things up and then holding the bracket and the signal device against the holder as I do that, or against the holster as I do that. Okay, so now that we've got the belt attachment back on the holster with the bracket and our signal device installed, we're not going to need the Allen key or the other screws anymore. So now that it's installed, what we need to do is get it calibrated and set up ready for use. So the best way to do this is to follow along with the instructions that came with the device in the box. So inside the box is a Axon Signal Sidearm Quick Start Guide, and this will walk you through the calibration process for the device, and also some troubleshooting on the backside if you run into any issues. That should be able to get you through most of the problems that are likely to happen if it's not either installed correctly or if you don't go through the calibration process correctly. The device is already assigned to you, so when you get it, it's going to be ready to go once you do the calibration and get that set up that way. And I'll show you how that goes as well. So let's walk through this and start getting our signal sidearm ready to go. All right, so now what I've done is I've got a sidearm in here, an unloaded sidearm in here, because we're going to be taking it in and out of here several times. And I'm ready to enter the calibration mode. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press the button to take it out of low power mode, and you should see it'll blink red. It's going to be hard to see on this holster setup. It'll blink red. That indicates that it's in placement mode. To go to test mode and calibration, I'm going to double click this. It's going to blink yellow, indicating that it's waiting for me to now take the pistol out of the holster. When the pistol comes out of the holster, it's going to blink blue 3 times and then blink green. That means that it's been calibrated and it's ready to go. Some of this will be easier if the holster is on your belt rather than on a table. Once I've done that, I can put the holster back in, or put the firearm back into the holster, and then it'll show that it's green. Again, that's going to be hard to see here, but it'll show that it's green. And then when I remove it, it's going to blink red once I remove the handgun from the holster. And it's still showing solid green, so that means that it's working properly. You're going to want to test that several times just to make sure that it's going to work correctly and that the device is detecting your firearm the way it's supposed to. After you've left it like this for about 30 seconds or so, then it'll go back, or the green light will turn off and it'll go into field mode. Whenever the device is in field mode, the LED does not turn on at all. And the only other thing you're going to want to do with it is if you're going to draw the gun for maintenance, or you're doing some training, or you're unloading it to put it away for storage. If the LED is off and I press the button for about 3 seconds, it's going to go into mute mode. So mute mode is going to show you what the battery level is at. So in this case it's red, so that means the battery level is low. But then when I pull the sidearm out of the holster, it's not going to send a signal to the body cameras to start. And that'll go for approximately 30 seconds, and then it'll return back to field mode, which means that it's ready to go. So once you've got the device installed, tested, and calibrated, you're ready to go. It'll remain in field mode all the time unless you press and hold the button for 3 seconds to put it into mute mode. If you need to recalibrate it, or if it's not working, then you're going to need to start over at that beginning of the process to put it through the testing and calibration mode to get that fixed. Most of the time when it doesn't work, it's because this bracket is either loose or it's misaligned. So make sure that that's in correctly before you try and do anything differently if it's not working. Again, if you've got any questions or need any help with this, you can certainly come and see me. Thanks.